Welcome back. I'm Preparated Bit Bedazzled because today I'm going to be shedding light on how working a real private sector employee job based on voluntary demand for an 8-hour employee shift that pays a gross wage of $15 per hour for 8 hours of the employee shift can net you around $6 per hour during the employee work session. So how's this deemed to be possible, you may ask? Without further ado, without further delay, without further procrastination, allow me to demystify the answer to that inquiry right here, right now. First and foremost, an exorbitant amount of employers are keen on configuring the workers as independent contractors in order to further minimize their labor costs. Companies want to minimize their labor costs so that almost all their profits can be reserved for their executives, external directors, and shareholders. Workers who are performing real private sector employee jobs based on voluntary demand that are configured as independent contractors by the real private sector employers wind up performing jobs that are tantamount to the real private sector employers' employees. When you account for the evisceration fees that people who work real private sector jobs based on voluntary demand pay and receive absolutely nothing for paying, is significantly going to reduce a person's net wage. Furthermore, you also need to take into account the costs of commuting to and from an employer's distant job site. An 8-hour employee shift can be prolonged to an 11-hour employee work session when an employer renders it compulsory for his workers to commute to and from his distant job site. When you commute to an employer's distant job site, you're not only depleting fuel and depleting oil, but you're also accruing car depreciation costs. It is expensive to rotate your tires. It is expensive to replace defective vehicle parts. It is expensive to replenish your fuel. It is expensive to replenish your oil. Furthermore, when you're at an employer's distant job site, the employer often mandates for you to take a half an hour to hour unpaid break, and you are essentially tethered to the employer's distant job site amid the duration of the unpaid break. And when you're relegated to the employer's distant job site, you're not going to have access to your desktop. If you had access to your desktop, then you'd be able to work in other capacities amid the half an hour to hour unpaid break. When you do an 8-hour employee shift remotely, then the employee work session is essentially tantamount to an 8-hour employee work session, since you do not have to commute to and from the employer's distant job site when you do an 8-hour employee shift remotely, and you also do not bar yourself from having access to your desktop when you work an 8-hour employee shift remotely. So when you account for the evisceration fees that people work real private sector jobs based on voluntary demand pay and did not receive anything for paying, and when you account for the 2-hour round-trip commute and the costs associated with it, as well as the hour unpaid break, you can easily ascertain how you may be netting around $6 per hour during the employee work session, which is commensurate to an 11-hour employee work session for an 8-hour employee shift. That is a location-bound employee shift, which you are barred from performing remotely if the employer mandates you to perform the 8-hour employee shift at the employer's distant job site, which is not within the vicinity of your domicile. The employer's distant job site maybe an 84-mile round-trip commute, or could even be a 120-mile round-trip commute. It's just predicated upon where you're domiciled at and how distant the employer's distant job site is from your domicile. So I hope that you deem this video to be riveting, captivating, mesmerizing, enthralling, insightful, intriguing, engrossing, and informative. I hope that you're entrenched in unalloyed epicness. Thanks for watching. Have a blissful day. Goodbye.